I was at the mall the other day, and there's these big trees that are all around the food court. And I've always thought they were real, but then I was thinking to myself, let me double check, because I'm not 100% sure if they actually are real. So I was looking and I was wondering, like, are these real trees or are they big fake trees? And so I looked around on the ground, and there's a few fallen leaves that are sprinkled here and there. If you're observant, you'll see them. And I was thinking about how when we contemplate what is real and what is not, when we consider authenticity in life, there's people who appear to be really, really perfect. They appear to be masters of their destiny. They've got it all together. They've got all the answers, maybe. And the reality is, if anyone seems like they're perfect, they're probably not real. Because no matter how healthy the tree, every tree is going to shed a few leaves. So if you're looking for relationships that are meaningful, if you're looking for people who are worthy of trust, if you're looking for things that are worth doing, don't look for things that are perfect. Look for things that aren't, because that's the best way to tell if something is real. If it's willing to expose its vulnerability, to show that even if it puts its best foot forward, that's not going to be perfect. We should always make a point to not let the perfect become the enemy of the good. Life is filled with promises of perfection, but life is also a deeply imperfect experience. And the more we understand that, the more maybe we can be gentle with ourselves to understand that we don't have to be perfect. If you've ever looked at your life and you've thought, well, I'm not good enough for one reason or another, well, just remember, it's better to be not good enough and trying to be your best than it is to be looking like you're perfect when in reality you're not. And there's certainly a lot of that in online spaces when people go to their favorite places on the internet and project themselves as if they've got all the answers. They've got it all figured out. They're, arrogant and self-assured and experts on just about everything. And the reality is, that's not human life. Human life is messy and confused and filled with imperfections. And that's not being broken. That's being real. I was out hiking around Lake Fayetteville, and there's a stone somebody had painted. They'd wrote the words be and do on this rock. And I was thinking about how those two short words mean a lot. We ask ourselves what we want to be, and we ask ourselves what we want to do. And those are probably among the most weighty questions that we ever contemplate in our lives. And yet it's important to consider that the goal of life shouldn't be to be something specific. It should be to be yourself. It should not be about guaranteeing a specific outcome. It should be about being present. If I say my life is successful if I'm able to do all of these things, well, that's fine, but what if I can't do all of those things? What if it doesn't turn out the way I wanted? Then am I a failure? Is life not good then? And what if I try my best and it doesn't work out? What if I get an idea and then I try to execute that idea to the best of my knowledge and ability, and then it turns out to go belly up and it doesn't work out the way I want it to? Then am I a failure? You know, like, maybe life should be not about trying to see if you can find a way to accomplish something specific. It should just be about trying your best to do something mindful, to say, this is a thing that feels good to me, like a good idea, like I'm going to try it. I'm going to be unafraid to raise my voice, to express an idea, even if it's not a perfect expression. Even if what I'm doing winds up being crude and not very well presented and it's rough around the edges, but I still am going to say, hey, this is me, and if I need to be corrected, then I will accept correction. And if I can be better, then I will try to be better. But if I'm just doing the best I really know how to do, and my best is not perfect, then that's something I will give myself grace for. And, you know, it's like, I was thinking about MMOs, and Guild Wars 2 is one that has come to mind. I'm sure there's a few others that are like this, where when you're out exploring the world and you join in on some sort of content, I think Elder Scrolls Online is the same way. If you are fighting a boss and you're not the only person there, like every person who participates is able to get the same loot at the end. So it's not like the person who did the most gets the most. It's not that you had to carry the team. It's just everybody who was there. If you put a hit in on the boss, then you're going to be able to get the chest at the end. It's just, that's how it works, right? And so it creates an environment where whether you're a weak player or a strong player, you're going to always want to participate, because you know that the reward isn't based off of whether you won for your own sake. It's based on whether you participated for everyone. And that makes it easier to get people to be involved, because they know, like, you don't have to be the best one. You just have to be there. And if you're there and you're present, then you're going to get a share of the reward, just like everybody else. And when you have an environment like that, well, then people will be more likely to want to participate. And it's the same thing when we look at our lives and we kind of gauge whether we want to do something, whether we want to venture ourselves, put ourselves out there. Well, if you say, well, I can reward myself with self-respect and personal pride and all of that if I am able to accomplish this thing, well, then maybe you don't try at all, because you think, well, I'm a failure if it fails, and so since I don't know if it'll work, then I just won't even try. But if you say, every time I put effort into something, then I'm giving myself the respect, the reward for being present, for being engaged, for mindfully committing to try to do something to better my life or to better somebody else, right? Like once you have that attitude that you aren't trying to accomplish a specific outcome as much as you are trying to be present in all the things you do, trying to have the right motives for all of the things you do, trying to be as committed as possible to advancing something that you believe in, whether it's someone else or your life or whatever it might be, right? Like I could put money into an investment in the stock market or something like that, and I could say, well, I don't know, like maybe I make the wrong choice. Maybe I put my money into something that doesn't actually wind up being a really good choice. That's possible. But then what if I looked at all of my life that way and I said, well, you know, maybe it's not going to work out, so I won't invest anything at all. I just won't even venture it at all. You know, like there's a lot of young people are like that. Like they just think, well, you know, like I'm poor, I'm kind of not doing very good, I'm struggling, so, you know, if I have an extra $20, I guess I'm just gonna go, you know, reward myself a little bit with some retail therapy and buy a extra couple hamburgers and something I can afford to get that's going to maybe make me feel better. I'm not going to invest anything because I don't feel like I really have much of a chance at all. You know, but what they wouldn't understand in that moment though is if you invested just a little bit and you did it consistently over the course of, you know, a couple decades or so, you might be really surprised at how much just a little bit here and there can turn out to quite a bit down the road. But we don't encounter success if we aren't willing to begin. You know, it could also be, you know, to use more video game analogies, it could be like that, you know, that 200-hour RPG, and you think to yourself, well, you know, I'm not going to have time or commitment or focus enough to make my way through this entire title, so maybe there's no reason for me to begin, right? Like I've been like that with the Assassin's Creed series. Like it's a cool series. I like it. I even have almost all of the Assassin's Creed video games in my library. It's just, I think to myself, well, you know, there's so much to do. I just don't know that I really want to start because it feels daunting, right? So you don't even begin. And sometimes it's okay not to finish. It's okay to leave things open-ended and say, you know, I don't know how it's gonna work out. I don't know if it's gonna amount to anything. Maybe it just is all for nothing. Maybe it's just an endeavor that doesn't produce any real outcome other than me being able to say I tried. But even if that's all it is, when we try to do things and it doesn't work out and it's a learning experience, that is something that adds value to our life because it's something that's an experience we can add to that journal, to the quest log of our lives. And sometimes the side quests are the best way to advance yourself. You know, I've heard about people that play games like Skyrim and they've spent all their time just doing side quests, just doing all the random stuff. And then they said, you know, like when I get around to actually finishing the main quest, it's easy to just one-shot all of the bosses and everything because I got to max level before I even did the beginner stuff, right? And sometimes that can be how life works too. Like you don't even realize when you say, I'm not gonna worry about what the outcome is. I'm not gonna say, you know, I'm gonna be happy with my life if I can accomplish this thing. I'm gonna just live my life and I'm gonna do things and I'm going to be things. And I'm not necessarily going to be victorious, but I am going to be the best I know how to be. I'm not necessarily going to win in the end, but I am going to do something that I chose to do with my life. I'm going to try, like that's it. And then you give yourself credit for all the times that you have tried, all the times you have endeavored to do something, all the times you've said, I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and try something that I'm not super comfortable with, or something I don't know how to do very well right now, because I'm going to be happy, not because I accomplished what I want. I'm going to be happy because I endeavored to do something. I tried. And that's what really matters. Like if you were teaching a child how to be potty trained, or how to speak, or something super simple, like those things that you learn when you're a small child, like how do you train a child? Like, do you say, oh my goodness, like you don't have a big vocabulary, so you're a failure? Like, no, you don't do that. You say, like, okay, you learned a word, right? Like, you learned how to say mommy or daddy. Like, that's a celebration, like that baby's first word, right? But then, like, how do we treat ourselves when we're adults? Like, we don't do that. Like, then we're like, oh, well, what's one word? One word doesn't matter. If you're going to learn a language, you need to learn all 3,000 words and phrases before you can even start to say that you have any right to say you accomplished anything. But the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So if you said, I'm going to celebrate every step I take, and I'm going to look at my day and say, well, how many steps did I take? Maybe some of those are steps in the right direction. Maybe some of those are steps in the opposite direction. Because sometimes we're going through life on this trail and we get turned around and we don't even realize it. Like I was hiking the other day and I was trying to walk around the lake, and then I missed my turn. I took the wrong fork in the road, and I was on a path that was actually backtracking back to the trailhead. And then I realized, after I had been going the wrong way for a while, that I had kind of went full circle. I didn't go where I was trying to go. And so I went back down the same trail twice. But the thing is, I wasn't really trying to go anywhere. I was just going for a hike. I was just there to be in the woods, so it really didn't matter that I went down the same trail twice, because I saw things the second time that I didn't see the first time. And I was able to get more steps in, get more exercise in. I didn't lose anything because of taking a wrong turn. It just is part of my day. And that's how life is. It's filled with a lot of backtracking. It's filled with a lot of moments when you think that you're going to go in a straight line to get where you're going, but really you're going to zigzag and you're going to spiral and you're going to go backwards. And when it's all said and done, then you have this thing which is a journey, which is beautiful, but it's not about that daily, here's what I accomplished, here's what I am able to brag about, right? Like if you think about all the things that you could, maybe put on a resume and say, like, here's what I accomplished, or put on an annual evaluation, say, here's the things I accomplished. Yeah, some of those things maybe matter, but what really matters is how much effort you put in. It's the level of integrity you demonstrated every day. It's all the things that are just a little step that you take every day to try to make progress in some direction. Maybe not the direction you expected, and that's okay. I think there's a lot of value in this realization that life is not about having an objective and executing that objective. It's about having a journey and celebrating that journey. What if we spend our lives looking for happiness, and really that is itself a guaranteed failure, because anyone who seeks happiness can't find it, because it's impossible to discover. It's impossible to ever find it. Then we spend our lives looking for something which can only exist if you stop looking for it. And that's kind of an interesting thing to contemplate. Kind of like how if you want to see the beauty of life, you have to step away from the minutia of it. You have to be able to disconnect from all of your little goals, little objectives, all those little things that you think have to fall into place in order for you to have a good experience. When you let go of those things, then you can see that life is beautiful and life is good, and we live in a amazing time, and there's so much to be thankful for. You know, there's all these people who like to say negative things. Like, I've heard people complaining about their lives. There's people complaining about how there's too much negativity in the world. There's people complaining about how life is too busy or too lonely or whatever it is. But the reality is, if you disconnect from all of that stuff, the world is a place filled with abundance. Sometimes there's things that are terrible. There are things that we need to work on to try to make the world a better place. But why? Like, why do we need to make the world a better place? Why do we want to make life better? It's because we know that life is good. It's impossible to say you want to bring about enlightenment if you haven't seen light. It's impossible to say we need more love in the world if we don't know what love is, right? So, like, the fact that we think that the world needs to be somehow made better is proof that it is good to begin with, because if we didn't have a point of reference, we wouldn't even know what good is. And so then it comes down to a matter of perspective. Like, do we focus on what we think is beautiful about life, or do we focus on what we think is broken? Are we celebrating every step forward, or are we frustrated because no progress is ever enough? Are we looking for the pot of gold at the foot of the rainbow, or are we just looking for an opportunity to celebrate the life that we've been given, the time that we have? I was listening to another YouTuber talking about existential questions, and he said, like, isn't it kind of weird that every animal that exists is somehow able to make its way through life without really overthinking or complicating its existence, and yet we have this overwhelming compulsion to feel like we are somehow not good enough, or even the smallest misstep can be ruinous to our place in the world. Like, maybe the whole point of it all is for us to understand that, yes, it's amazing to be able to have free will and agency and the ability to contemplate our place in the world. But it's also important for us to remember that there is no right answer. There is no specific thing we're supposed to do that's going to make our life worthy or meaningful. all we really are supposed to do is make the best of the moments that we have and be the best to our knowledge and our ability. And whether that is truly what is best or not, I don't know, because I could be very much wrong about something. But if I don't know that I'm wrong and I'm still doing the best I know how, well, then it doesn't really matter, does it? Whether I'm right or wrong. What matters is that I'm doing the best I know how to do in the moment. And that's what you should look at. And when you say, oh, can I go to sleep soundly tonight and be happy with the life I have? Well, just ask yourself, have you lived today striving to do what you believe to be right? Have you tried to do no harm? Have you tried to be at peace with others? Have you tried to move in the right direction more than in the wrong direction? And if the answer is more or less yes, like pretty much yes, then don't worry too much about what tomorrow will bring and whether things will work out or any of that, because we are coming from dust and going back to dust, and it really is genuinely all about the adventure. It's not about the outcome. And when you focus on just making the most out of every day as a new, fresh adventure, and you don't worry about finishing all of it, well, then you probably are going to reach a place eventually where you will look back and you will say, you know, I think that I've accomplished a lot more than I ever really expected, because a lot of those little things all added up to something that was better than expected. But you can't really celebrate the small individual steps forward until you learn that life is not judged on a basis of the entire finished package. It's judged on a basis of whether you did the best you could and tried to be a good steward of each moment. Life is a lot of little moments. It's not about whether you were able to do everything. So try to be gentle with yourself. Try to make every day a positive experience, and don't be afraid of letting go of some of those expectations that tend to be disquieting, those things that make you doubt yourself, those things that make you wonder whether you're doing enough. And this is important because if you can't find peace now, then the question which remains inevitably is, when will you find peace in your life? What is the trigger? Like, if you've gone years through your life and you can't figure out how to truly be at peace with where you are, then when? As Hillel said, if I am not for myself, then who am I? Who will be for me? And if I am for myself only, then what am I? And if not now, then when? There has to be a point where we just say, okay, I'm done. I surrender, right? Like, I'm not going to keep on saying I'm not good enough and I'll be happy if I can accomplish this particular thing, or life will be good if I can prove this particular thing to myself, or answer just a little bit more of that which is unknown. You know, life is filled with unknowns, and there's, at the core of it, this premise of us being three-dimensional creatures in a4-dimensional plane of existence. So if you figure 1 dimension is a line, 2 dimensions is a square, 3 dimensions is a cube, well, you have that direction of left, right, north, south, up, down. But then what about that 4th dimension? And that 4th dimension is time. And the lesson there is that we think that time is like a line, and what isn't here yet doesn't exist, and what isn't anymore is gone. But really, it all just exists, and time exists sort of like a 4th direction that isn't up or down or left or right or north or south. It's a direction which is beyond every direction, but not something that doesn't exist. It's something that does exist, that everything that ever has been and everything that ever will be, it all exists in a singularity. And so if you were to imagine that our lives aren't really being written, our lives already are written. It's just we're kind of changing our position inside a story that already was written since the foundation of time. Then life is like a merry-go-round, and on a merry-go-round the horses are fixed and the merry-go-round has a design, and you can not choose where the merry-go-round goes, but you can choose when you get on and when you get off. Maybe you could choose where you get on and get off in that circle. So maybe in life there's a certain degree that we have control of our way of looking at life. We can look at life through different perspectives, and we can have a positive outlook on life. We can enjoy the story. But if it was written since the foundation of time, then maybe we don't need to worry so much, because the story is there for us to love, not for us to stress about. So wherever you find yourself on your adventure, good luck to you. And as always, thanks so much for watching.